let's say, taken off course because of some other company's agenda. And I just feel that this is what COVID is. COVID was a plan. People may not agree with me. It was a planned, strategic effort to knock the U.S. off. And look what's happened to our shipping, to everything. And who's making all the money? Not the United States.
Oh, no, not at all.
China.
Yeah.
Jay Moore Tech Talk Show, where we answer questions about technology, explain the way they should work, and why they don't sometimes. Well, hey everybody, it is John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur here, and welcome once again to another issue of the Jay Moore Tech Talk Show. Hey Marcus, it is great to have you here after Thanksgiving. I ate a lot of turkey. I don't know about you, but I ate a lot of turkey.
Yeah, I'm stuffed. Still stuffed.
I had some pumpkin pie and I had some pecan pie, and pretty soon we're going to be getting into New Year. I know I keep saying this. The months and the days keep rolling by. Where are they going, Marcus?
They're out of here, John. You know, out of here and on to the next.
I'm thinking you might be stealing them. Stop stealing them. All right. Let's talk about some interesting things. So, I don't know if you guys are following the ISS, the International Space Station. Well, the International Space Station has actually had some challenges. And the challenges that they're having right now, if you guys have not been following, is that this particular, supposedly a helpful mission, they're starting to get space debris from the Russian test flight. And it's forcing astronauts on the ISS to now take shelter. What do you think about that?
Oh, wow. Are we surprised? Because this is nothing new. We know that a lot of debris comes from a lot of these test flights and a lot of just regular routine flights that happen anyways.
And it's so dangerous that the national security officials are worried it could be used as a weapon in future space war. That's an interesting conundrum.
Yeah. Thank God we got SpaceX. What is it? Space Force?
Yes.
Yeah,
but I just don't know where these people are going and like what they're even doing. I would think there's like a protocol, Marcus, that when you do stuff, like like I said, a checklist or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm guessing, I don't know, for whatever happens, money talks with these ventures. Because, that's how we went over to Russia, because we didn't have the money to fund it ourselves, or we weren't putting the money up. Let me put it that way. And because we weren't putting the money up, well, Russia kind of came to the table. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's very interesting, John. It's very interesting.
I don't know. We're going to definitely have to keep an eye on it, just like global warming.
Yeah. Then many other things.
Exactly. Another interesting thing that's happening, we always say men and women are equal, and I believe that. However, more than a third of the women in tech now are looking for an exit in the next 2 years.
Why do you think that is?
Well, 38% of the women in the tech industry are planning on leaving their jobs in the next 2 years. And this is according to some national surveys. It's because of the pandemic.
John, you said it once before. A lot of things get planned on the COVID nowadays, and I think it's the quick go-to for when things get rough.
I just think this is just another plethora of an instant excuse. Well, let's just call it COVID, and then we can just say we don't have to have the event, or we can just stop living our life because it's COVID.
Yeah. And we do know that a lot of things came from Uncle Sam that was all in the goodie bags that benefit a lot of people through this pandemic. And so it makes more sense to, I can just find something to do at home and be a freelancer.
Now, according to CNET, and I quote, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed everyone's lives over the last year. And a half, including women who work in the tech field, the report said, survived the 1,000 women in tech, ranging in annual salaries from less than 25 to 100,000, and a variety of work environments, including in-office and remote and hybrid. So what that's telling me is that they're piling on more work and expecting people to get paid less money.
Yeah, which is just ridiculous. It's quite ludicrous on the parts of these corporations, who's pretty, who's just not doing a good job of just like expanding their workforce and and increasing those pocketbooks uh, for their employees.
I agree. And I am all for equality in the workforce, whether that's men, women, whether it's sexual orientation, color, race. I'm all for that. Equal opportunity employer. But the tech industry, as you and I know, and it's no secret, it's kind of been a guy's club.
Yeah,
It's not something you bring up at the ladies' table because they never want to hear about it. And it's not that, they couldn't talk about it, but usually there might be one lady and like, oh, let's not talk shop, Glenda, let the boys talk that. And, and that's what happens. And then they wonder, why are we, I don't want to say discriminating, but why are we saying that the women can't talk about it? It's not that they can't, it's that they don't want to. It's almost like a non-cool clique to be in if you talk about tech if you're a lady.
yeah, exactly. That totally is right on track, John. I think you are pointing to something that is definitely being spoke about a little bit more.
And something else that I think is really terrible. The other reason that's pushing women out, a lot of people of color are still getting paid less in tech because they're saying they're inferior and they don't have the same knowledge as the white people. But I think that's unfair too. And the data reinforces these similar findings. McKinsey and Company in the annual Women in Workplace report, and they released this several months ago, and they found that 1 in 3 women across industries are considering either leaving their jobs or downshifting their careers to something at home or something as simple as being an Uber driver. I mean, that's terrible, Marcus, that somebody wants to, you have all this potential, right? And now
Mhm.
you don't want to use it because of COVID. I mean, get off it.
Yeah, we got to do better. I think on the corporation parts and then us as individuals, we can't we can't allow a little bit of pushback to stop us in advancing ourselves.
Yeah.
We got to hold the corporations to their fire, and call them out. But but not also use in the same mouth use COVID as an excuse.
Yeah, I think that's got to stop. I am just so tired of the word COVID. I get that people still have it, and there's still some surges coming in, but it's not an everyday breath word. Like let's live our life. Like 9/11 happened, right? Quite a while
Right.
ago, right?
Right.
And again, we didn't forget about 9/11, right? We didn't forget about it.
No, we didn't. The good thing about what happened with 9/11, there was
10 years ago.
10 years ago, there was a huge emergence of people ready to come out and come together and get it together.
And I think what I've noticed about a lot of these things, because 9/11, I don't want to call it a pandemic, but I think it might border close to a pandemic,
Yeah,
even though it wasn't
definitely.
medically related.
Right.
It's still kind of, let's say, kind of stunted people in where they were going from their growth to incapacitating them to be able to living their lives. So I think that as we have these things, it's not a matter, Marcus, of if these things are going to happen, because they still could happen. We as business owners, entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, executives, parents, volunteers, first responders, we have a duty to live our life and not be, let's say, taken off course because of some other company's agenda. And I just feel that this is what COVID is. COVID was a plan. People may not agree with me. It was a planned, strategic effort to knock the U.S. off. And look what's happened to our shipping, to everything. And who's making all the money? Not the United States.
Oh no, not at all.
China.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting how they have recovered quite fast, and I think you pointed out a brilliant observation, John. And it was very very brilliant on your part. Just what's happening from the very beginning to up until now.
I don't know. It's crazy. But speaking about crazy, do you ever go around your home and have to I don't know, get things done? Like you have these whether it's honeydews or I'm not married, but if you have honeydews or whether you have things that have to be done for yourself and you just don't want to do them. I don't know whether that's yard work or maybe it's putting together a bookcase that your significant other wants you to put together or move something or vacuum something or clean out something, but you just don't want to do it, right? Can you relate to that?
Yeah, all the time.
Well, I got a solution for you. There's a company out there called TaskRabbit, and we'll allude a little bit more about them in the program, but we want to thank them for being our sponsors because they're really the people that are little busy rabbits for you so you can actually do what you want to do and put those tasks off to someone else, pay them a little bit, and let yourself really enjoy life. You can visit them, by the way, at TaskRabbit. That's www.taskrabbit.com. And we'll have a link a little bit later to let you save a little bit of money from them on your first task. So if you have one of those honeydews, don't risk your marriage or risk a relationship or even frustrate yourself into unnecessary stress and health disorders. Check out TaskRabbit, okay?
Absolutely.
Well, President Biden's even at it now. He signed legislation, get this, to tighten the U.S. restrictions on Huawei, Huawei, and ZTE. Now, what the heck am I talking about? Well, there is something called an NDA, okay? Now, I'm not talking about a non-disclosure act, okay? I'm not sure if you ever heard of an NDA before, Marcus. Have you?
Well, you can definitely educate me a little bit more as well, the audience.
Sure. So an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, but really what it is, an NDA is to prevent countries from importing things or to bringing them into their country. So that's really the simple part of it. And without getting into all kinds of acronyms, because everyone's not going to remember them anyway, it basically is there to keep our country safe. So Biden, this was around the 11th of November, and all of you know Reuters, who we get a lot of information from. Reuters is actually the largest media company for Thomson Reuters, and they report on financial data and all kinds of data to millions of people around the world. So we're getting it from a key source. And U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday had signed, this is November 11th, the legislation to prevent companies like Huawei Technologies and ZTE that are deemed security threats from receiving new equipment licenses from U.S. regulators. So why is that happening? Great question. You may have remember a few years ago, there was some cell phones that were not permitted to come into, not our country, but they weren't allowed to go into any corporate building that was associated with the government or the government agency itself or any schools. So anything that had government funding on it, you had to leave that device at the door. If you went to the White House, that device could not be brought in. It would be confiscated at security, and you get it back on your way out.
Yeah, I remember I was talking about this earlier in the year. This was coming down the pipeline. Actually, we talked about this a little bit last year too. When
we did
the last administration was pushing hard for this.
Yeah. So the reason this is happening, Marcus, is really simple. These companies are potentially, well, maybe more than potentially, very probably planting bugs in there. And I don't mean bugs like, the ones you kill with a fly swatter. These are bugs that actually would spy on you without your knowledge. So if you have a cell phone, for example, and it's coming from one of these companies, they have a strong inclination to believe that these devices are listening to you and maybe trying to get information about our country maybe create espionage.
Yeah, there's no surprise that this type of stuff is happening all the time, and there's no bigger surprise that they would try to do something sneaky like this through something that we use every day.
So, in case you guys didn't know what espionage is, it was the act of 1917, and it makes it a crime to interfere with or attempt to undermine or interfere with the efforts of the United States Armed Forces during a war. So, let's just say we had one of these devices and something was happening, and now certain information was getting back and forth. That could compromise our position on how and when and if we attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can see why signing this document into law was very important, because, devices get made all the time. And I think about this, I always like to buy things in the United States, but, the signing comes days before Biden and Chinese leader, was it Xi? I'm going to kill his name, Jinping, are expected to hold a virtual summit. Now, Reuters reported the meeting is expected to be getting deep into what's happening, but they're really going to have a meeting that's expected to hopefully alleviate tensions over trade, human rights, and military activities. I just don't see that happening.
No, I don't, and I remember the last time we talked about this. How the daughter of the founder of this company was really advocating very hard to get it back distributed widespread into the United States, and it was just a bunch of lies that would come out of her mouth, and this is not going to happen. It can't fly, and we gotta continue to push back against this type of stuff.
So they call it the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. So we call it NDA for short, but it's really the NDAA. So the National Defense Authorization Act. And basically it started with Hikvision. You remember me talking about this in 2018? Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And so what had happened, companies like Honeywell, Hikvision, Swan, LTS, WBox, Interlogix, FLIR, even Bosch, IC Realtime, QC, Panasonic, ADT, Indigo Vision, Monteview, and many more were using products or chipsets from Hikvision, and the Dow sanctions had basically prevented this because they had figured out that they were listening in to conversations in buildings when these cameras weren't supposed to even have microphones on board. They had another microphone, so even if you ordered it without a microphone, it still had a microphone, and it was transmitting through the primary connection. And there was no way to turn it on or turn it off. So these sanctions basically prevented these companies from using U.S. technology or standards in future software firmware releases, from using U.S. patents in future hardware models. So this means that they are going to face a situation where they either don't update their firmware for cybersecurity concerns or lose the ONVIF compliance features. Okay, and the firmware is updated. So now you're probably saying to me, John, what the heck is ONVIF? Well, that's a great question. So I'll get into that here in a second. But ONVIF is a global and open industry forum with the goal of facilitating the development and use of global open standards for the interface of physical IP-based security products. Now, this all happened when we got into IP cameras. Right. Because the U.S. rolled them out, and then China and other countries, and Korea and other places. But Korea's not been sanctioned yet. It's just been China. But I'm not here to tell you that, everyone's, I'm going to say, off the hook. I've gotten so strong with this that we now use companies in the United States that only manufacture their own devices and their own chipsets. So you can get good DVD systems for several $1,000s. With cameras, typical installation, $5,000 to $10,000. Now you can do the same thing on a US-based system. It's going to cost you about 30 or 40% more. But you've got a product that is made and maintained only in the United States of America.
Yeah, which will make more sense to have it based here in the United States.
So I think people, I don't know, I think they just look for the cheapest thing. So again, ONVIF, in case you just tuned in, it stands for Open Network Video Interface Forum. And so you can get a lot of great free information on there. You can even learn what cameras are possibly bad. So camera models made by Honeywell, like I said, Panasonic, Dynacolor, Sony, Samsung, Pelco, Bosch, even Axis, Hikvision, Ericon Vision can be on an ONVIF compliant network. The question is, if it's an open interface network, are there protocols in place on their systems that are going to prevent anybody from trying to backfeed in?
Yeah, that's the biggest concern there and the biggest problem. And, we talk about that all the time.
There was a guy, Marcus, not too long ago, much you remember, he was posting the link to a piece of software you could download to basically unlock anybody's Hikvision DVR.
That's sick.
You run the program, you enter some information in, and bam. Now, there is a process. I'm not here to educate people about how to hack a DVR, but there's a very specific process if you forget the master password. And it's not 3 steps. It's usually like 8 to 12 steps. And they all have to be done within so many seconds. And there's no indication whether you've done them right or done them wrong until you're all done. So you kind of got to know what you're doing. You really have to write it down because you're not going to know how to do it. So usually somebody has to give you something. You go through. After you've done it a few times, you can remember it. But isn't that terrible how, we're getting exploited by these things? So I think it's good what Biden is doing. And, I don't know. I think, with this new law requiring the Federal Communications to no longer review or approve any authorization application for equipment that poses an unacceptable risk to national security. I don't know. That could be a problem.
Yeah, it can. It can get ugly real quickly. And it's good that we got, experts like yourself, John, that's like giving us the light on this stuff.
But the FCC commissioner, Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr said, and I quote, "The commission has approved more than 3,000 applications from Huawei since 2018. So the law will help to ensure that insecure gear from companies like Huawei and ZTE can no longer be inserted into America's communication network," Carr said, end quote. So I think where the problem's coming in, to be very honest with you, is really at our FCC.
Yeah.
We are just pushing things through like candy.
Yeah, it is. They, you
So
don't
what
have
we
any
decided
issue
to do is
they're not
put a
tightening up
fence
on things.
so things don't come through from these areas. And when we sense more problems, then we'll put more roadblocks up. So in March, the FCC designated 5 Chinese companies as posing a threat to national security under the 2019 law aimed at protecting U.S. communication networks. The named companies previously designated Huawei and ZTE, as well as Hytera Communications, Hangzhou Hikvision Digital, there they are again, and Zhejiang Dahu Technology Comp. The FCC in June had voted unanimously to advance a plan to ban approvals for equipment in the United States telecommunications network from those Chinese companies, even as lawmakers pursued legislation to mandate it. So the FCC voted to draw oppositions from Beijing, and the United States, without any evidence, still abuses national security and state power to suppress Chinese companies. So I don't think they're abusing anything. I think this is a political bunch of BS because the people are trying to put threats on the U.S. saying that we're doing freedom of speech. That's so much a crock. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it's a crock of change that like we can't use. And what really concerns me is like, just how long this took, for something to even be brought to the table like this. And it's like, man,
well, let's see. IP cameras. When did they come out? IP. The first IP DVR was in. I'm trying to remember now. The first IP DVR was manufactured. I'm trying to remember. That was around. The cameras were not made in China, but the DVRs were. And then the 2 biggest non-Chinese manufacturers were Axis and Lilin LIP cameras.
Yeah.
And then the PTZs were designed in Taiwan, manufactured in Taiwan, obviously. I don't know. We started seeing these, I think, right about we started seeing them heavy, maybe about 8-10 years ago.
Wow.
And so
yeah.
it became a problem when people, were going to like your stores, like your superstores, any of them, from Best Buy to Costco to BJ's to Sam's Club, and they were buying a camera system for $399. Like, oh, gee, I got a great deal.
Yeah.
And then when they realized that their personals and unmentionables were winding up on other people's sites and other businesses, that's how they learned about it, Marcus. It was first about just people's company data that was winding up. So it wasn't the government stuff that was causing the flag. It was the fact that competitors were learning intelligence from other people in the industry.
Absolutely. And people were screaming for help for a long time, and here we are now, 10 years later almost. So this is crazy.
It definitely is a thing. But like I said, so speaking about help, lots of people need help every day. And we talked about TaskRabbit, but what I want to share right now about TaskRabbit is that I'm an engineer, but I'm not a mechanical person. I'm not someone who puts desks together. I've done it a few times. I prefer not to. And I remember I had to have was a desk or a chair, and it probably would have taken me a few hours to put together. I looked at the instruction manual, and there was no instructions. It was just a bag of screws, 100 screws and bolts and nuts or whatever, and a really tiny, very low quality printed document with the most smallest diagrams. I even put it on my copier and blew it up, and it still was confusing. And so I said, this is just nuts. So I had gone to one of the stores and I said, what do they charge to put together? And they were like a fortune. So I said, this is crazy. I'm paying more money than the stupid chair or the desk. So I went online, I did some searching, and then I found this company called TaskRabbit. I didn't know anything about them. And I said, well, gee, I'm going to put one of these things up. Hopefully I get some offers. I didn't know how it was going to work, but I was pleasantly surprised. You don't really pay anybody. You basically put an offer out there and then you accept that. And all the payment is handled through TaskRabbit. So it's very secure. And you get offers and you can check their, let's say, their credibility. It's just a great platform to connect people that have a job that they want to have done, an odd job. It could be something like you want to put flyers out. It could do that for you. If you want somebody to come and paint your home, they could do that for you. But you could look at their skills online. So somebody is out there and they need a task done or a job done or odd job or what have you, or even going to the dry cleaners or something. You can go try to find somebody on TaskRabbit. And that could be a nice part-time thing. But the other thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is you may know TaskRabbit is a great site for helping you get your jobs done. But what you didn't know about TaskRabbit, and I think Marcus is working on this to get a different link, is that you can actually apply if you're skilled in an area and you know how to put things together and maybe you know how to paint or you have an extra skill and you want to make some extra money, you can actually apply to be a person that does tasks on TaskRabbit. So a great way for people to make extra money. And they even have a thing there about how people are staying safe with COVID. So I would definitely check it out, Marcus. It's taskrabbit.com, www.taskrabbit.com. We'll pop a link a little bit later in the program to let you know. But like I said, I had a personal experience with this company. And I was pleasantly surprised. I figured it was just going to be like another Uber deal or Lyft deal and hope you get the right driver. But, you interview the people and they don't just let people come on there. They really try to make sure they're good quality people. And if you have a concern or a complaint, they address it. It's not like, these people can hide behind this ironclad box. They have to live up to what they say they're going to do or they're going to remove them from the platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think as we talk more about security, it's not so much I'd say the danger of what they're doing, but the danger that people don't know what they're doing. Because what they're doing isn't going to kill anybody or hurt anybody to date, but
No,
it
not at
is
all.
going to cause problems, you know? And dangers are an issue, but what if a danger could be so vital that it could affect somebody's safety? We'd want to know about that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we should be the first to know. It should
Yeah,
be
I
headlines.
would think so. And
Yeah.
and speaking about that, there is actually one that I would like to let you know of. So the U.S. House Democrats urged the FCC to avoid potential air safety wireless dangers. What are we
Hmm.
talking about? Well, when you use certain communications, there are potential safety risks from use of the C-band spectrum of the 5G wireless. What am I talking about? I'm not talking about cancer. I'm not talking about, getting a suntan. I'm not talking anything like that. I'm not talking about interference to, your TV. I'm not talking about any of those annoyances. I'm talking about something that could affect your life and hundreds
Wow.
of other people. The risk to altering and interfering with radio emitters. You know what a radio emitter is?
What's that, John?
Okay, a radio emitter, in short, is a device that is found on all aircrafts,
Oh, wow.
commercial, government, military, etc. And what an altimeter is, it's an altitude meter in an instrument used to measure the altitude of an object above a fixed level. So that's very critical
That sounds like a needed object.
when you're
Sounds very
flying
needed.
a plane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a serious problem, and
Yeah, this sounds more serious than the conspiracy theories that was surrounding 5G.
yeah, exactly. And the one gentleman here, in a letter to the FCC chair from the House Representative, Transportation Committee Chair Peter DeFazio, and Representative Rick Larson said, "We're now on the precipice of a dangerous situation in which the safety of flight hangs on the telecom industry's decision regarding when to switch on its 5G networks," said House of Representatives Transportation Committee Chair, as we just heard. And so that means that something has to be done. Does that mean that altimeters need to be modified? I don't know. But I think it's a conversation that has to be done in union with everyone. It's not just a cell phone company. I always say that when you make a decision, Marcus, and your decision is going to affect other people,
Yeah.
you got to consult those other people.
Yeah, you do.
Even if they're not knowledgeable about what you're doing. They may not know about the C spectrum, but they need to educate them on it. They need to test it.
Yeah, and these things went up so fast. It seems like none of that conversation was mentioned. No one took the time out to even consider this.
So the one thing I'll let you know is that they have currently agreed to, as of November here, AT&T and Verizon Communications, isn't that nice, to delay the commercial launch of the C-band wireless until January 5th.
Oh, that's so short a time. Oh man, that's not really a lot of time to really deliberate this thing. You would think that you would push this out more.
Well, the raised safety concerns, as we know, as the telecom was warned that a 6-month delay in deployment could cost the U.S. $25 billion in economic benefits. See, we're always talking about that money, Marcus.
Oh man, so we're gonna put money before safety here. So that's
that I don't go for that.
Yeah, I can't agree with that. And man, more people should speak up about this to push this out further. Screw the money at this point. Because the lives are going to cost more than the money.
Exactly. And the federal FAA, in case you guys didn't know, the Federal Aviation Administration is what it stands for. On a bulletin earlier this month, warned that action may be needed to address the potential interference caused by the 5G deployment. So now they're starting to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
The FAA may issue an emergency directive to airlines, and lawmakers said that it could include draconian but necessary restrictions on many types of critical flight operations. we've had these restrictions in the past where they say you can't use a cell phone. But, it's never been a problem in the past.
No.
You see, we've been extra proactive because we know people use cell phones when the 9/11 happened, right?
Right.
So, but they were doing it for a different reason. They were doing it for landing reasons.
Yeah.
Okay? They had nothing to do with the altimeters and altitude. That's very serious.
Yeah.
So the two lawmakers asked the FCC to prohibit 5G broadband use in the C-band until the FAA has conducted a robust risk assessment. The FAA did not immediately comment on the letter. The lawmaker then said, after a year of discussion, we appear no closer to resolving the serious concerns that the use of C-band for 5G would create to the harmful interference. They then went back, and this is scary, and I quote, they cited the 2019 Boeing 737-800 accident near Amsterdam as an example of how an erroneous radio altimeter reading could potentially result in a fatal air disaster with multiple fatalities, even on a clear day. So we already had a fatality.
Oh, wow.
That crash, ladies and gentlemen, killed 9 people that will never get their lives back. The people briefed the team at Reuters, and the potential mitigation measures included small exclusion zones around airports, downward tilts of some antennas, and reduced power levels to areas around airports. Big deal.
It's a big deal,
No, I mean what they said to do. That the big deal. They did that little thing. What was that? That was like a drop in the bucket.
Oh, wow. That's like minimizing the situation here. We can't minimize lives. We can't minimize collateral damage. These damages in the aircraft loss. That's going to amount up to a lot. In the long run.
Yeah, and I see other things happening too, Marcus. As you know, a lot of our traffic lights, I don't know if some of them are becoming wireless.
Yeah.
And as you know, a lot of these, being a first responder, they have like those blue lights on the traffic lights. I don't know if you know this, but when the light, that light, they can actually make it blue. And when they do that, they can change the light and they can actually affect the light. And you can see that the firehouse or the ambulance squad, if they're like right at the intersection, they can literally control that light.
Yeah.
So that's being controlled wirelessly. Now, let's just jump a little bit higher, and let's just presume that maybe one of these spectrums that we haven't talked about yet could potentially cause an interference to being able to change that light in emergency.
Oh, wow. Just imagine that damage and the delay is going to cause to serious emergencies.
Maybe somebody's life. We know that in emergencies, seconds
matter. Yeah, they do. Yeah,
they matter.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about security in case you guys haven't known, and it's very, very apropos right after Thanksgiving because we're getting to the holidays and everybody's gung-ho about technology, which I am too. However, I think that we need to be cognizant of what we're doing, the choices we're making, and how that's going to affect the safety and livelihood of our lives. Well, another friend I want to talk about, Amazon. Amazon knows a lot of personal details about us.
Yeah.
And I want to quote a Democratic member of the Virginia House of Delegates. Are they selling products or are they spying on everyday people?
Well, you and I know that they collect data,
Oh, yeah.
This is, and I don't know why they try to make it a secret, like as though they're not.
Routers collects data too. Routers collects data. But I'm a lot more, how can I say, trusting in them than I am of Amazon.
Yeah.
Maybe because they manage financial data too. I mean, they're one of the largest. So Reuters is very, very large, and the largest media aggregate and platform for Thomson Reuters financial, and other types of data all around the world. And Samir was among the few Virginia legislators who opposed an industry-friendly Amazon drafted state privacy bill that was passed this year. At Router's request, Samir asked Amazon to disclose the data it collected on him as a consumer. That says something.
It says a lot.
The company gathers a vast amount of data from the U.S. customers. They make that data available to all upon requests if you should decide. If you write them, they have to tell you everything they have on you. It is the law.
All right.
So 7 Reuters reporters obtained their Amazon files. The data reveals the company's ability to amass strikingly intimate portraits of individual consumers. They were not only gathering data of people's, let's say, shopping habits, dating sites, profiles, Facebook, chat messages, emails. It's frightening.
That's a lot of stuff, John.
Amazon collects data on consumers through its Alexa voice assistant. You and I have talked about this. We knew they did this.
Yeah, we knew that.
Kindle e-readers, Audible audiobooks. So I belong to Audible and I get audiobooks, but so they know what I buy. Okay, it's no secret what I buy, but some people, maybe they don't want to share that.
Right.
It's video and it's music platforms. It's home security cameras and fitness trackers. I told you they did this.
Yeah, and then now we're going into health-related things.
Alexa-enabled devices make recordings inside people's homes, even Ring security cameras. And the data all sits where? On Amazon's server. Information can reveal things like people's height, weight, health, their ethnicity, any cultures they belong to, buying habits, whereabouts on any given day, what their patterns are. One reporter revealed that Amazon had collected more than 90,000 Alexa recordings of family members between December 2017 to 2021, averaging about 70 daily. That Alexa's no good.
No, it's not.
The recordings contain such things as names of people and young children, and even their favorite songs and where they go to school, etc. Imagine what could happen if this got into the wrong hands, Marcus.
Yeah, just even a fraction of that, you know.
Amazon captured children asking how they could convince their parents to let them play and getting detailed instructions from Alexa on how they could manipulate this to basically trick the kids into doing what they wanted. Alexa advised the kids to refute common parent arguments such as too violent, too expensive, and teaching kids how to go against their parents' wishes. Amazon said it does not own the WikiHow, but Alexa sometimes responds to questions with information from websites. Of course, they're going to say that.
Yeah.
So some recordings involve conversations between family members using Alexa to communicate across different parts of the house. Children apologizing to their parents after being disciplined. And it's just interesting how they pick certain situations to keep.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, you gotta wonder, you know, what's going to happen with this stuff after so long.
And in one particular recording, a child is asking Alexa about human reproduction and being shown and told words that are considered vulgar. Wow. Even giving the child different definitions to words that you and I would use every day, but wouldn't be using them in an adult context. Alexa has suggested that there's other meanings for those words and opening up Pandora's boxes that kids should not be getting into. Amazon says its Alexa products are designed to record as little as possible. Yeah, bull. With the trigger word Alexa and stopping when the user command ends. But that's not true. Amazon said, and I quote, "It has scientists and engineers working to improve the technology and to avoid false triggers, and that they apologize for recording too much information, but they're just trying to make sure that they hear the customer's wish. And the only reason they're recording extra data is they just want to make sure they're giving the customers the full experience." Amazon also said that they record all this extra data because they want Alexa to know that she could just pick up where they left off, even if it was days or weeks later. The only way for customers to delete much of this personal data, you know how they can delete it? Is to close their account. The company said it retains some information, such as purchase history, even after the account has been closed to comply with legal obligations.
Mhm.
Amazon said that it allows customers to adjust their settings on Voice Assistant and other services to limit the amount of data collected. Alexa, for instance, can stop Amazon from saving the recordings or have them automatically deleted periodically. And they can disconnect their contacts or calendars, their smart speaker devices. We already learned from a show not too long ago that they're not going to allow interaction to Outlook and Gmail.
Yeah.
That was causing them, I think, a real problem because you're sending messages and now, bam, it's all available. A customer can opt out of having the Alexa recordings examined, but they must navigate a series of menus that are so confusing that most people give up before they even get halfway through turning it off. Why do they need to know so much? And this is what Samir asked after he lost a bid for re-election earlier this year. Law enforcement agencies seek data on customers from technology companies. Amazon willingly discloses that it complies with search warrants and other lawful court orders seeking data. I think they're a little too willing to provide data.
Yeah, they are. This is no protection at all for the customer.
Amazon stopped disclosing how often it complies with such requests last year. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Amazon's 3,500 word privacy policy, which keeps changing, links to more than 20 other pages related to privacy and user settings. That's absurd.
Yeah.
The information, as we know, can get extremely personal, and there are no limits. For example, it actually, there was a family member that read The Mitchell Sisters, a complete romance series. It told them the date, the time, when they finished, and how many pages they flipped. It also told them which pages they spent more time on. I think Amazon is becoming a little bit like a Facebook.
Yeah, they're already treaded those waters.
And I think if they're not careful, Marcus, they're going to be having the same problems that our friends at, not Facebook. It's now called Metadata. And now their new thing is they can take two worlds and make them to become three. I don't know, Marcus. I think, as I've always said to you from the very beginning of all of our shows, is that security and privacy is a concern. But we need a consortium that's set up that is able to be unbiased and is able to report what's going on to the general population. You see, most people don't know that when Google was set up, they did what they had to do in a very certain way. Right. And I got to let you know that this has been a great show. And we're at the top of our hour already. So it has been a great one, ladies and gentlemen. I got to wish you all the best. Happy, healthy holidays. We'll be back again with another great show just for you. And remember to give our sponsor a try. We really thank TaskRabbit. And get all those honeydews done around the house. And I'll catch you next Friday. Remember to get your holiday shopping in soon.
Indeed. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Jay Moore Weekly Technology Show, where we answer your questions about how technology is supposed to work and sometimes why you have challenges getting it to work that way. For more IT support and tips, just text IT support to 888-111. That's IT support to 888-111. 111 and you'll get tips on technology. I'll see you next week right here on the Jay Moore Tech Talk Show. Remember, jmor.com.